Hey, welcome back. All right, in this video, we get to the part that I'm most excited about, technology and how we breathe. So, uh, and I think I want to start like this. I want to start with the idea that humans, like all animals, evolved to breathe through our noses. Our noses are, uh, which I don't, it's going to sound like kind of crazy that I'm this into this, but our noses are this super intricate filtration system that purifies the air. If you get a chance, the assigned reading for this week, one of the assigned readings was Breath by James Nestor. It is just fascinating. And most of what I'm doing in this lecture is going to be coming from that. So we, like all mammals and like most animals, are evolved to breathe through our noses. But we end up with a problem that happens when we get to the invention of the technology of industrialized food processing, which I know we covered that last week, but we needed to get to dealing with breathing because this is not going to be about nutrition. This is going to be about what it means if the food that you eat is if we evolved to eat food that was raw or cooked over a fire, but not processed in terms of being torn apart and recombined. That's what we're dealing with. So, our species evolved to chew food for about 2 hours a day. Nobody does that nowadays. You can eat a meal, even if you are talking with people, you eat your meal within 15 minutes. Um, and it's because food just doesn't take that much to chew. It's all been softened for us. Yeah, it's all been softened for us. That's probably the best way to put it. And so our jaws don't have to do that much work. Okay, so here's where this gets really weirdly interesting. Um, Part of our evolution was that our lower parts of our faces were sorry, I'm having this whole reverse of the camera thing. Uh, our lower parts of our faces were have evolved to grow or not grow based on the amount of tension, the amount of stress that the muscles in our jaws experience. More stress leads to a broadening of the jaw. Less stress leads to the mouth not growing in that way. And the problem with that is that if our mouth doesn't grow like that, it makes for a smaller airway that we breathe through. It also leads to all the orthodontic problems that we have. So, really fascinatingly, before the advent of this industrialized food processing, which is only a few hundred years ago, before that, you you almost cannot find skulls that have anything other than perfectly straight teeth in broad, wide mouths. That's what we're supposed to look like, or I should say, what we evolved to look like. Nobody had, and these teeth lasted. Like the whole idea of cavemen having these teeth that are all kind of broken apart and falling. That's not that's not based on evidence. Um, in fact, there are racist people who put together these skulls looking to find superiority of the white race and modern people, and they were stunned and really frustrated by the fact that what they found was these people that they considered to be inferior having these skulls that were much more perfect than the more what's the right word, um, what we consider to be civilized, modern, particularly white human beings. So it's really this fascinating idea that this technology gets introduced. All of a sudden, our jaws are not under the kind of stress that they used to be, and as a result of that, our mouths are smaller than the number of teeth that we have. So I have gone through extractions because of not having the space in my mouth for the number of teeth that I have. Most of us, or many people have. A lot of people have braces. All of that, All of that is due to this technology, and the fact that we now don't have to chew the way we used to changes our anatomy. Yeah, that's the big con. The pro for this industrialized food production is we have cheap, accessible food. The con to it is it changes our facial anatomy in ways that the mouth is smaller, it doesn't advance away from the nose, it constricts the airway, and as a result of that change to the anatomy, we become a species of mouth breathers. In Nestor's book, he talks about us as the worst breathers in the animal kingdom, which is going to have all kinds of negative effects. I mean, just apart from the idea of mouth breathing being considered to be something that well, hilariously considered to be something that like our caveman ancestors did. They didn't do that. We're the ones who have gone, I can't say backwards, who have gone to a worse place in terms of our ability to breathe. Okay, I'm not even following my notes because I'm obviously so into this, which is, yeah, you can make fun of me later. We're mouth breathers because the size and the shape of the front of our skull, I'm caught up with my notes, depended on the amount of chewing that we did. We didn't do enough chewing to create that broad mouth and that wide airway. And as a result of that, it's less efficient, harder for us to breathe through our noses because everything is kind of compressed. And so we end up breathing through our mouths, which creates a number of problems for us. And so let's talk about those. First of all, so two categories, two ways in which we're in trouble. First is that, as I talked about earlier, when we breathe through our nose, the air is purified. It's a purification system that it goes through. We don't get that when we breathe through our mouths. So we ingest more allergens, viruses, those chemicals that we've talked about in the last couple of videos. All of those things don't get filtered out. So the rates of sinusitis, bronchitis, chronic respiratory issues goes way up for us. But also, because of the small size of our airway, we end up having snoring problems and sleep apnea. Those are not natural to our species. I don't want to make it sound like I don't have these things. Like I have these same issues. I snore, I have bronchitis, sometimes chronic respiratory, not chronic, but I have had respiratory issues. None of those things are specific to our species. We're not supposed to experience those. We experience those things. And about 50 to 60% of Americans snore. I think it's about 10 to 20% have sleep apnea. Those are the result of this. Ultimately, it goes back to that, and the fact that we don't chew enough to open up that airway, to have the structure of our face change to open up that airway. It's fascinating. Oh, and there's good news at the end of this video too, because right now you're probably either thinking it's ridiculous that I'm this excited about this, or you're thinking, what an incredible ripoff that I snore and I get bronchitis all the time, and it's because of us eating what we learned last week is less nutritious food. It's all terrible. But this week I'm going to have some fixes for you. Okay. That's it. Air not purified, bad. Second, because we're mouth breathing, and you can do a little experiment on yourself with this if you would like, breathing with your mouth for a little while and then breathing with your nose. What you'll find is that breathing with your mouth creates shallower, faster breathing. Now, think about when in your life, when you're not thinking about this, you end up having shallower, faster breaths. It's when you're stressed. Well, that cause and effect can go both ways. So if you are sitting there and you are breathing that is sending signals to your brain that you are stressed. It releases the hormone cortisol, it releases adrenaline, and you end up experiencing the stress like your body goes through a stress response, even though it's just because you are breathing in that way. Again, not something that you naturally can help. It's because of this change to your anatomy. Although you can unnaturally help it by working on this, which we'll get to in a moment. So, air not purified leads to all these health conditions. Shallow or faster breathing leads to a higher level of stress. It also leads to, and this gets a little bit biological, but most of you are aware of the fact that you have a muscle here called your diaphragm. And the diaphragm moves up and down to control your breathing. When you breathe more shallowly, it doesn't have to go up and down as much. Problem with that is when you breathe deeply, which we're supposed to, when we breathe through our noses, it's slower. And so we end up having to breathe more deeply. When you do that, your diaphragm descends and it pushes against your kidneys, your stomach, your intestines, your liver. And in the process of doing that, it helps your body process lymphatic fluid. Sorry, I know it's not a biology course, but this is super cool and it impacts your health, which impacts how fulfilling your life can be. Lymphatic fluid is part of your immune system. It's a circulatory system, basically where all of the toxins, the leftover white blood cells, they all get filtered through your lymphatic system. But the lymphatic system, unlike your blood circulatory system, it is not automatically pumped. You have to pump it by using your muscles. So it's part of the reason that getting enough exercise is important, in addition to the cardiovascular benefits, which we'll talk about in a week or so. In addition to that, you are also pumping by using your muscles. You're pumping that lymphatic fluid so it doesn't just stay there with the toxins just deteriorating. You moving your diaphragm up and down does that with the organs that are right underneath it. So if you are taking deep breaths through your nose, you are massaging those organs and moving that lymphatic fluid through. Guys, sorry, it doesn't sound like sociology, but it is, because it all comes down to this cheap, accessible food from industrialized food production. Society is what is limiting your lymphatic system's functioning. Right, take that down as a note. The conclusion to this. It is super easy to change this. Again, not original to me. Read Breath, The New Science of a Lost Art by James Nestor. Super readable, by the way. You got a little sample of it. And he talks about how easy it is and ways to get your body to be breathing through your nose. I mean, it kind of is just a conscious choice. But you have to be aware of it. You have to be aware of it to make that change. But also the fact that even though you are now, whatever age you are, you're not a kid anymore where, this whole chewing thing was supposed to have happened. The muscles in your jaw will still respond at any age. There are stem cells there that will react to that stress if you put your body under it. So I'm not saying you should go out and eat like a hunter-gatherer necessarily, but changing your diet to the extent that it's your choice, to the extent that you want to, so that you are getting closer to that 2 hours of chewing that we evolved to need, will change the structure of your face. Not like radical, it'll make you better looking, but it's not like there's some radical big change. But the positive is that we'll open up your airwaves, and that'll be a good thing for you. All right. How much time did I spend? 15 minutes. That's not bad. I thought I was going to go for like a half an hour because I was so excited about it. All right. That is it for the technology and how we breathe. In the next video, we're going to deal with, so this is I kind of didn't write theme 1 up here, but the pros and cons of this. In the next video, we will talk about theme 2, which is how do these technologies change us? I'll see you then.